Howdy folks. Well, today we are back on the Blazer here. We've got a little bit of a leaky axle seal issue. You can see that the oil has leaked out onto the outside of the wheel. You can see that's pretty nasty on the inside of the wheel there. So we're going to be pulling the wheel off, getting this thing jacked up, and pulling the drums off and getting the axle pulled. The first thing we got to do is need to sweep some of this floor dry up. And that's where we spilled power steering fluid last time we worked on it. Next thing we got to do actually is we got to chock the front wheels so this thing don't roll away from us. When we jack it up, we've got it up on the frame, supported on the frame, so we got to pull the tires off to be able to drop the axle all the way down. As you guys can see, there is all kinds of oil all over the inside of the wheel, which is not good, so we're going to have to get that cleaned up. And get the brake drum pulled off. Oh yeah. All right, as we can see, it's not supposed to be greasy like that. So this is a C-clip type axle, so we're going to have to drain the gear oil from the rear end. So let's get that other wheel off and get started on that. Now we got the tires off, we can drop the axle all the way down. And we'll get us a drain pan and pop that rear cover off. This is always my favorite part of the job. And actually we're going to take this top one and leave it kind of partially set in there so the lid don't, so that the cover doesn't drop into the oil pan, the drain pan, when we pop this thing loose. There we go. I don't know when the last time the fluid had been changed on this thing, but looks like we're going to have to go get pry bar to get that cover loose. There we go. That oil don't look too bad. Yes, the wind is starting to pick up today, so we're going to be fighting with that too. Well, it looks pretty good. We don't have a lot of shiny stuff on the magnet here. A little bit of what I would consider normal. Well, there we go. And this thing does have, it looks like some sort of a locker in the rear end here. So now we got to go ahead and pop the transfer case into neutral, or pop the transmission into neutral so we can spin this. We have to pull this bolt here out and the spider gear shaft out so we can get to the C-clip. We got to rotate the ring and pinion here. And like I said, it looks a little warm, but it's not horrible. Before we pop everything into neutral, let's go ahead and get this broke loose here. And that is in fact 8mm. There we go. For all of those of you who have been around turning wrenches for a while, you'll know that about the mid-80s is when if you wanted to start working on American vehicles, you had to have both standard and metric wrenches, because half of the truck would be standard and half of it would be metric. There we go. Okay. So as you can see, right in there we have this block that has to come out so we can pull the C-clips out for the axle. And boy, that's got a sharp... That spider gear had a sharp edge on it. All right, let's get to that then. We're going to pull this retainer bolt out, and then from the other side we can push this out, bring it down so that it kind of wedges there. More drops into the frickin' bucket. That's lovely. Okay, we're back from looking at the TM. And what we've got to do is get that carrier rotated into the right location. Push the axle shaft in. And then we got to get in there with something to pull that clip out. So let's see if we can get a magnet or something to pull that out with. All right. And we may have to pull the axle shaft back out just a little bit. Enough room so we can, it's got to go in just a little bit more. Okay, magnet's not going to do the trick. Maybe a long skinny screwdriver will do the trick. There are a couple of them here. There we go. Come on out there. And there we have it. That is a C-clip that holds the axle into place. So the next thing we do is come out here and pull the axle shaft on out. And that's all there is to it. Now, that ain't good, because that is part of brake spring, I do believe. Well, we'll have to look on the other side and see what is missing, but that is broken. We're probably going to have to get a brake spring kit. And then, so next thing we got to do is get that seal pulled out. All right, we're going to use our fancy dancy snap-on seal puller here. You can see the little hook on it. All right, that thing's going to make a freaking liar out of me, ain't it? All right, screw that fancy seal puller. This thing's going to make a liar out of me. Well, that sucker's not wanting to come loose at all. Looks like we're going to have to go into full destruct mode to get this thing out of here. There we go, that's better. Bearings are looking okay. Not seeing anything real ugly there on the bearings or on the bearing surface on the shaft here. So we're gonna have to get us a bunch of parts cleaner and go down to the parts store and get us another seal. So and we're also going to have to get a new set of brake shoes, because once these brake shoes have gotten saturated with this much oil, they're no good anymore. So We're going to go over onto the other side, take a look at the other side, and see where the heck this thing goes and what's supposed to be attached to the other end of it, because we're probably going to have to get a set of brake shoes. Well, we're going to have to get a set of brake shoes and probably get a set of brake hardware, a hardware kit for these things. And that takes a few days usually to get in. Okay, that's where it goes. It goes right up. Yeah, you can see where it broke right there. So I think we're going to end up going ahead and getting some brake hardware as well. So hang around. We'll be back shortly with the brake hardware and stuff we need. All right, folks, we are back from town, and we went ahead and got our axle seal that we need. We are going to pull the soaked brake shoes and all this rusty brake hardware off and get things cleaned up. We're going to install the new seal. We've got the seal, but we don't have new brake shoes and all this rusty hardware or replacement hardware yet. We'll be getting that in a couple of days. So when we get that, we'll get the brakes on, but right now we need to get the axle put back together so we can get it sealed up. We're supposed to have some weather move in tonight or tomorrow, so we need to make sure it's sealed up enough so we don't get any water into the axle. So let's get started on this. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to pull the brake springs off. And if you've never seen one of these nifty tools, you can get these at Harbor Freight. This one happens to be Snap-on, but you can pick them up at Harbor Freight. And this is the broken piece here. You can see this shoe retainer here. That's pretty rusty. We're going to toss that out. We're going to replace all that stuff. And then what's frustrating about this whole deal is it looks like these brakes have been done recently. Because these pads, the shoes are in plenty good shape, but because they have been soaked with oil for so long, you'll never get all the oil out of them. Come on. There we go. I knew all this stuff would come off eventually. Unless somebody's got a good idea as to how to clean all the oil soaked into these brake shoes, that's kind of where we're stuck at. I'm gonna go get me a brush, wire brush, and start brushing all this nastiness off the backing plate so we can get that seal put in. And one of the things that you want to remember when you have the shoes and everything off of here is be very careful not to step on the brakes. You will blow out your wheel cylinders, and if you blow the wheel cylinders out, you're pretty much, unless everything is nice and clean, you're probably going to want to replace them. This is all pretty rusty on this thing. This blazer sat about 2 blocks off of the beach in Santa Cruz for many, many years in Santa Cruz, California. So even just sitting there, you know, they'll just rust away just sitting there. You don't have to drive them in the salt to get them trashed like that, get them to rust away. Now all of the brake hardware, because we're going to buy a brake hardware kit for it as well, all of the hardware will be included. So I don't know about these pieces here for the parking brake, but the adjusters and everything else like that should all be in that kit. And we're going to want to clean the dust and dirt and crud off of the axle shaft too. Now, I'm not a huge fan of these type of axles, but that's what this thing's got, and we are trying to keep this thing as stock as possible. That's kind of the whole point of this channel, is to go ahead and run, you know, see what you can do, and to show you guys what can be done with basically stock vehicles. You don't have to have something that's super lifted with, you know, 40 bazillion inch tires or anything else like that to go out in the woods and in the hills and have a good time. Granted, you are going to have some limitations, but if you keep it, if you know your limitations, man's got to know his limitations, you know, then you can still have a good time. So anyway, let's go get the new seal and get that installed and get this axle reinstalled. Okay, we've got our seal here and a seal driver. I'm going to set the seal right on there, seal driver, and I personally like to use a soft mallet to tap this stuff in. Regular hammers work, but there we go. And now we need to get a little bit of grease here. Grease up the inside of the seals. Then take the axle shaft and slide it right on back in there. Make sure it's engages with the splines on the spider gears. Yeah. Of course, it's going to fight me. It's going to be difficult. All right, well, let's get back underneath there and check and see if anything has moved. Well, it's all where it's supposed to be. There we go. All right. Now we're done out here until we get the brakes in. So we will take you back around to the differential side and show you how to put it back together. All right. We are back. I'm going to go ahead and squirt a little bit of brake clean in there, and a little bit of brake clean on that. Let that dry out a little bit. And then we have some high strength thread locker, red Loctite, and that's a brand new bottle. We'll nip the tip off of it here. Slather it down pretty good. And then reinstall it. Okay, we got to put the transfer case back into gear. Now it won't move. Normally I don't like using a lot of red Loctite on things because when you put red Loctite on them, they have a tendency not want to come apart again. But in this case, I'd rather have to go ahead and put a little bit of heat on that to get that apart, rather than have it come apart while I'm driving down the highway. So we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of cleaning up on the gasket surface here. And we got to get the cover cleaned up and silicone reinstalled on the cover. So we will go ahead and get that going here. And then get back to putting this together. All right, I have found this to be one of the best ways to get the silicone cleaned off here. And there we go, all nice and cleaned off. We'll just hit it with some brake clean and get it degreased, and then see if we have some gasket making material around here. Want to make sure you get that magnet cleaned off real well, because if there's any little chips and other nastiness on there, it's best to go ahead and get all that off. So it doesn't get into the bearings and things like that. At any rate, there we go. Clean. Now let's go find us some gasket making material.